My guest is Melissa Cruz, City Curator of Heritage Services City Hall. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. And we're going to talk about being a tour guide at City Hall.
Yes.
Okay, full disclosure. I've been doing this for 12 years now, and I just love it.
Well, you are a beloved member of our guide family, I have to say.
Thank you.
You are kind of one of the ones we always turn to. You're fantastic, and
Thank you.
No, it's a really amazing program that we're really lucky within Heritage Services to have such a phenomenal group of people that we can really call upon to help tell Kingston stories.
And I am not the longest serving. There's some that have been there a lot longer than I have, and which says something about the program if you got that many people who are glad to come back every year. And it's I consider it a privilege to be able to show off this fabulous building. It is, well, what is your favorite part of City Hall?
Oh gosh, I think probably the jail cells are always a very special part. I know it's an easy win. Those 1844 jail cells, they're one of the least touched areas in City Hall.
Well, like the story is that they made it into a storage room, and it was full of junk up until about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I took out the junk, and everything's original as a result, which is a real find.
It really is, and we've been lucky enough that we've been able to kind of tell that evolutionary story of Kingston City Hall. And when John Counter, the Mayor John Counter put the initial call for the building designs of City Hall to be put out, it was the intention was to create a multifunctional building and market square site that could really accommodate a growing Kingston. And I think just that small space of the jail cells, it demonstrates that you have everything from a dry goods store to a bank to legal offices, and then the police station and jail cells. So it was sort of a one-stop shop in the 1840s, 1850s. But I think that, like you said, that preservation of that one small little space in the jail cells, I think it really speaks to the really impressive history we have at Kingston City Hall.
Absolutely, and what they have changed, they have kept the character. Mm-hmm. And you look around and you think it would be so much easier if this was a modern building, trying to keep it clean, trying to keep it modern. And but it's I think my favorite is Memorial Hall with those fabulous stained glass windows, and people step in and they go, wow. And I think that's my favorite moment of doing the tours. But what I always find interesting is we don't get too many Kingstonians who come to Kingston City Hall and take a free tour. It's your tax money.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes. I know you are right. The number of folks we've had that are local that we have in other sites, for instance, and we say, have you had an opportunity to tour City Hall? And the answer is either no or not since I was a child. And it's underutilized by Kingstonians, and I really hope by doing things like this that we can start to get some more local visitors in for these amazing free tours.
Absolutely. They last about 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you need tour guides again this year. We always have a few that just can't come back for one reason or another. So tell me, what is a good tour guide?
So a good tour guide is someone who I would say is a lifelong learner. We have a lot of folks within our tour guide family that are retired teachers, retired educators, or something along those lines. But it's someone who likes people, who loves to be a storyteller. That's something that I think is a really important aspect. You don't have to be a historian, but you have to really enjoy interacting with people and being a steward for the city of Kingston and being a representative of Kingston City Hall. But I'm sure you're able to speak to the core history and those really amazing speaking points we have in regards to our National Historic Site. But also guides are, you need to know a bit about just the city in general. Where should you go for lunch, or where's a good place to, get an ice cream and that sort of thing. But so having that, being able to be personable and really tell those really amazing Kingston stories, I think is really important.
It is. And what I get out of it, I meet people from all over the world.
Yes.
And it's always so interesting, and the questions are so interesting. And sometimes we get down in the jail cell, so everybody sits down, everybody's comfortable. By this time, they've been around me for, over half an hour. and we get into conversations, and I kind of lose track of the time, I got to tell you. But I've had some really wonderful conversations with people from especially other countries, and and it'll come out with, things. Is it true that Canadians, and then fill in the blank, and it's fun.
It really is
fun. Yeah, and it's great for a ham who can't sing or dance. This is perfect for me. So, yeah. So what is the recruitment process? If somebody out there says, that sounds like something I'd like to do.
So the best thing to do, you can either contact me directly at mcruz@cityofkingston.ca, or we do actually have a brand new application process that's on the City of Kingston website. When you go to the homepage, you'll find a little tab that says careers/volunteers. You can select that, and then actually our 2 available positions, so the tour guide as well as the tour ambassador, those 2 roles are right up, and you can select, and you can actually submit an application form, and it comes directly to my team, and then we kind of can interact and kind of help everyone navigate through the process that way.
Okay, so you put in your application.
Yes.
Then you contact these people,
Yes.
and do they come in and chat with you, or do you?
So typically, within the application process, it lists, people's availability and their level, what they're most interested in, if it's kind of the ambassador role or the guide role, and we can speak to, what we give them a little bit more information regarding what that is going to look like and kind of what our peak season is, and we're able to sort of, what sort of languages people speak, because people speak more than one language. It's always
huge.
very useful because, like you said, we have these individuals coming from all over the world, and the more languages we have spoken within our guide group, the more we're able to serve people in their original languages, which always provides a really phenomenal tour experience for them.
Absolutely.
So we kind of walk everyone through that process, and then we contact them, and then we have to go through kind of a little bit more administrative processes with them, and then if the individual does want to commit, then we would get a CPIC or a criminal record check as part of the process, which we reimburse individuals for. And then at that point in time, then they come onto the onboarding process, which we have this fantastic tour guide handbook that we provide individuals. And then, of course, we have our amazing curatorial team, myself included, along with some museum assistants that really help guide our new tour guides through the process of, it's a big learning curve, and we appreciate that, but we also are able to call upon individuals like yourself. In the recent years, we sort of started more of kind of a mentorship process between our returning guides that are very knowledgeable, and we'll partner them with new guides coming in so they're able to shadow until they're comfortable to start to do tours on their own.
Maybe we should explain what the difference is between an ambassador and a tour guide.
Sure. So I always like to think of the ambassador as sort of our front of house person. They're someone who are the greeters, and they're kind of give everyone a spiel about what they can expect when the tour guides might be returning if they're not available to go on a tour right away. And really they're kind of that frontline customer service. Also, it's a great role that giving a tour around City Hall, there's lots of stairs, so if there's ever any mobility concerns, the ambassador role, there isn't a ton of walking around the historic site, so it's great if that's a concern, but you still want to provide customer service and you like to chat with individuals. That's a really good role to kind of look at, because it's sort of like you're giving a 5-second tour of City Hall and providing all of that information and equipping kind of that individual to determine whether or not they want to do a self-guided tour or wait and have a fantastic, which I always recommend, the guided tour. But they're sort of the ambassador for the rest of that kind of that next step, and that's when our guide program comes in, that tour guide role, and that's you're walking around the site, you're providing access to areas that if people are on just a self-guided tour, they're not going to have access to, and it's significantly more enriching experience for this site. But
it is, and people that I don't know what it is, and say it's free, but they still, it's okay, I'll just look around on my own. But then you catch up with them, and they're overhearing, and then suddenly you've got them. You start out with 5 people, and you end up with 15 because they,
you just lure them right in.
You lure them right in, and I'll say, we're going up to the tower. Would you like to go with us? Yeah. Well, yeah. You go up right up into the clock tower. Like, wow, it's pretty nifty. Yes. It really is. Yes. Yeah. So how long have a lot of people have been there a long time?
Yep.
Yeah. What are some of the?
I believe I was like, I think someone hit 20 years quite recently, I believe. So I hope they like us, and they like they like City Hall. They like telling those amazing, special, interesting, sometimes quirky stories that come along with, a National Historic Site that functions, in historic capacity, but is also still the functioning site of government for Kingston. So it's a pretty dynamic site, and we're really lucky to have those returning folks, but it's also really great to see how welcoming those people, like all of yourself included, that the guides that we've had that keep coming back, how welcoming they are to new guides. It's really fantastic to see how welcoming everyone is, and it turns into really that kind of guide family, because everyone supports one another, and
we do.
There's always, and something, there's always new elements coming into City Hall, so there's always a slight learning curve for everybody. So it's kind of to start that year off, that learning curve is always there to some extent for everybody.
I think it's getting the confidence to make it your own.
Yes.
Everybody has a different, there's some that are military buffs, and so they'll talk a lot about that sort of thing. And there's others that are more artistic, and they'll talk about the portraits more. And everybody has their own leaning and their own stories that they come up with, and their own jokes and all the rest. And I think that's where the big thing is when you're confident enough to make it your tour. Yep. I think is the big one, and it's a half day a week. It's a 1 to 4 shift once a week, or you can do more.
Or you can do more. We're always happy for more.
Do more. CPIC, the binder looks overwhelming, but it's really not that bad. It's a lot of background information that you may never use.
Exactly.
However, it's kind of there, and it's interesting.
I like to think so.
It really is. It's a fascinating building, and so I'm encouraging everybody out there to, if you're a Kingstonian and you've never done this, come on out starting around Victoria Day.
Yeah, May 20th is it. We're going to kick off this year. Yeah.
Okay, May 20. I'll put it on my calendar. So starting about May 20, come on in and take a free tour. Bring your kids and. It's and if again people want to know more about being a tour guide, that would be terrific. Get a hold of Melissa, and it's on the screen. This has been great.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Great.